Yeah.
How's it going?
Hey, let's see. Did I? Aha, that's how we do it. There we go. What's up, man?
Living the dream, blowing through your catalog like it's going crazy.
I know. Yeah, when you texted me, I didn't even realize you were reading Self Fraud at the time. So I was like, I don't. The question you asked me, I was like trying to think about it in Ironbound. I was like, I don't think so. And then when you said, I was like, oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I was sitting there like some of them. It's been a while since I've read Dresden Files, but when he asked him, he was like, "Is there a name Mab?" I was like, wait a minute, like, dude,
Yeah.
it's I've been the premise of Soul Fraud to like in a way to start with Soul Fraud for a second, like to me is such a good like idea like the way it like because I kind of went into it really blind. I had no
Mhm.
idea really what it was. I just knew it was like an urban fantasy thing. So I was like, you know what, like I like some urban fantasy, so I'll give this a quick look at. And I started listening to it, and then I'm like, okay, okay. And then like soon as he was like, and someone said my name, and I look over, and I'm like, this just took a weird turn, and it was just like such a cool thought. And then the way you did things with the demigods and the way that all worked out, like the lore that you've like weaved into it, like it just for me it works like very well. Like I'm enjoying
That's
them a
awesome.
lot.
I'm thrilled to hear it. That series is a ton of fun to write. So, as more people have been discovering Ironbound and going over and checking it out, it makes me very happy because I get to now spend more time in that universe. So it's a win for me.
Yeah, so for me, that's I found you through Ironbound.
Right.
Atheon had sent me Ironbound, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like I liked it a lot. And then like I was waiting forever because I really didn't like look at like your like what else you've done. And then after they sent me, I think maybe the last time we talked, you'd mentioned that you wrote another book, and I had no idea. And after this one, I was like, man, this like Cold Wind was so good. Then like, let me see like what
What
else.
else is going on over there?
Yeah, like what else is he cooking? And then I was like, yeah, this guy ain't missing, man. Like this, like for that to be your first book in. That's how I try to judge things. And sometimes
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I hate doing that in a way. Like me personally, is like I'm gonna fangirl out for a minute, so just give me a second. But like I like to read people's work like when they first start first a lot of times because like you said they kind of get a little bit better. But
Oh,
like
totally.
I it wasn't like some of the like the only like for me there was only like one question that I had that you like the main character asked that same question himself. So I was like, "Oh, then like okay." Cuz like there was a moment where like some things got into his house like and he didn't invite them in. I'm like, "Well, how'd they get in there?" Like so
Yeah.
and
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
he asked it later, like, well, how the hell do they like do this? Like and all these little things. I'm like, well, okay, like he's asking his own questions, like so. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I have been blowing through these things so fast. Like I told you,
That's awesome.
I'm already at the crossroads in book two, and I started
Yeah.
book one this week. So like
Jeez.
I'm
You're gonna be
like
caught up. You're gonna be caught up soon.
yeah,
That's yeah.
I'm gonna burn through them really fast. I can tell you that for sure.
I think that's one of like the funniest things about writing books is like a book takes somewhere from 6 months to a year, depending on a whole bunch of things. And then it gets released, and you wake up and there are reviews. It
Yeah.
comes out at midnight, and you wake up and you have reviews, and you're like, oh, people are like, where's the next one? And you're like, ah, I'm
So
working on it.
how like does that make you happy as an author that someone like stayed up all night reading your book, like that they just
Oh,
couldn't put
totally.
it down?
Totally. I mean, it's mostly just the phenomenon of like how quickly somebody could consume a book compared to how long it takes to like actually make it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no, I mean that's an amazing feeling. It's like Christmas morning. You go to bed and you wake up and you're like, all right, does everybody hate me? Let's find out. And then you go check the reviews and if somebody enjoys it, and you're like, okay, I can breathe.
Yeah,
That's
Eli's saying
that's
he
pretty much
lost
it.
sleep to both Ironbound and Cold Wind. And like right now, like this is gonna sound so goofy, but I am because it's bingeable for me right now. Like I'm enjoying the. I think it's the Debt Collector. Is that the name of the series?
The debt collection, but yes,
Collection. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm enjoying it so much because it's like bingeable for me. It's like finding a new show where there's like a bunch of them. Like for
Oh yeah,
Ironbound to
yeah, yeah.
Cold Wind, I had to wait like almost a year. It felt like I had to wait. And I'm like, man,
It was
like
6 months. It was 6 months.
well, because I got it like a touch early.
That's true. You did get a little early. So
So
7, 8 months maybe.
but that's the thing is like I remember reading it and it was such a good book that I'm like the only thing that sucks for me now is I have to wait.
Yeah. Now
Like,
it is a bummer when you read a book one and you're like, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. And especially if it's like super trad, where they're like, it'll be 13 months, and you're like, all right.
what I like a lot, and this is like a good thing for me, is both of your books feel so different from each other. Like they don't feel identical, if that makes any kind of sense at all. Like they have like different tones. Like for
Yeah,
me, reading this, it feels very much like I'm reading a Jim Butcher book, but in a way, in not like one to one, but like
sure.
Ironbound and stuff felt similar. Like especially Ironbound, it reminded me so much of like being with Bridge Four and like Sanderson, like the way they were like talking and doing things and like starting off on the outs and then like working his way into being like cool with everybody. Like they're so different but equally very good, and I like that.
I'll
it's
take
it's a
that.
it's a really cool thing because usually a lot of people's books have like the same kind of tone and you kind of know what to expect, and for me I'm getting like curveballs from you that are really cool.
Yeah, I really wanted to write something different when I wrote Ironbound. I was already like 4 books into the debt collection, I think, and the rule of the universe of the debt collection and of Ironbound are sort of the same, which is that like whenever something can happen, it usually goes wrong.
Yeah.
But in the debt collection, the rule is like it goes wrong in the dumbest way possible, right? Like there's like an element of like comedy to it where it's like, what's the stupidest way that this could go wrong? And it's
Yeah.
like that. All right, cool. That's what we're gonna do. And so I want Ironbound was like, all right, Matt reacts to everything with comedy. Like he's in it's an incredibly serious, high stakes series, but he approaches everything through the lens of comedy, and a lot of the things that happen to him are funny. So I was like, all right, for Caster, we're gonna do something different. Like I just want,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest tone difference for me. Maybe is that like Caster is so like he's so serious and kind of like more in the moment, and it's totally different with the other because they're like high fiving each other like in the middle of a fight, like in these little like goofy things that they're doing, and you're like, it's such a different tone, but works very very well.
yeah, it's fun, and that's nice now since I'm juggling 2 series. Is that it's like I kind of get to go. I just sent book 3 of Ironbound off to the proofreader, so it's basically like done. Like I get to look at it one more time, but I'm really not supposed to change anything.
Hmm.
And that book almost killed me in a good way. It was just like there was a lot going on, and I had to really, really push myself on it. And so now I'm writing book 6 of the debt collection, and that's great because I'm like, all right, we're just off on a real dumb adventure, and book 6 is the most unhinged thing I think I've ever written. So it's really fun to just like not worry about that before I have to go write the finale of Ironbound, which will be high stakes, obviously.
So for Ironbound and Cold Wind, like, do you kind of know without like giving things away? Like, do you know where you want those to kind of go to, or are you still trying to figure it out yourself?
Um, I know now. I would say Cold Wind was where I really had to figure out a lot of it. And book 3, which is Bloody Sands, was the book that got added. So originally it was only supposed to be a trilogy. Um, but Cold Wind, like what I had planned for Cold Wind, I only got about half of it done uh, when we got to the ending of Cold Wind. And that book is already significantly longer than Ironbound. And I was like, I don't think we can do this. So I went to Athon and was like, hey, I really like the book I just wrote, but I am not ready to end in another book. Can I have one more? And they said yes, which was great. But so 2 and 3 are going to go very hand in hand. But then 4, like I know the last page of 4 now. So there'll be some changing, but we'll find it.
So is Debt Collection, is that also through Atheon or is that through something different?
That's completely independently published. So I do all of it.
Yeah, I was wondering like if we could talk about that for a second. How does that
Let's do
work
it.
for you? Because like you have one that's completely its own thing, and then another one that I feel like is from my point of view, being extremely successful. Like Ironbound, I see a lot of people talking about it. It's getting a lot of praise, and very much so. Like it's a very good book. So, like, how do you balance that yourself?
There's pros and cons to all of them, right? So Ironbound is for sure, I think, the book of mine most people have read. It's doing pretty well. There's all kinds of scales, right? It's doing better than anything else I've ever done. I'm super excited about it. It's behaving very strangely in like how indie books work. So, for example, Coldwind is actually doing way better than my publisher thought that it would, based on how Ironbound didn't have a lot of like hype around it when it came out. Like people talked about it, but it didn't do like super high on the charts. It didn't do anything crazy. But what's happened is the word of mouth has it's like stayed very steady in its sales. Most indies spike and then kind of drop, and then they put out a new book and they spike and they drop. And Ironbound came out and it just kind of held. And so when book two came out, book two has actually like outperformed book one in terms of like sales over time because of how many people have gotten excited about book one into book two, which is really cool. It's a really, really awesome thing. And it's really unusual for indies because we don't usually have the marketing budgets to compete with like trad and that kind of stuff. Um, for running the debt collection myself, I basically am acting as the publisher. So that means that I pay for all the editing, all the art, the audiobook narration, all of that. But I have complete creative control and I get all of the royalties that exist versus like, obviously Athon and I split the royalties that come off of it, but they paid for the production of the book. They help with the marketing. They have a lot of things that they can do to help it get places. It's in Barnes and Nobles because of them, that kind of stuff. So you have to sell more books to make the same amount of money, but if you're working with the right kind of publisher, they help you sell more books, which is, everybody wins. It's a great thing. And Athon has done a tremendous job of helping spread the word and getting it out there. So it's been a plus for everybody.
Yeah, I always kind of wondered that because like it would have to feel so different. Like, did you try like querying and things like that for debt collection, or did you instantly go to self published?
I did query the debt collection a little bit. So I finished Soul Fraud like during the pandemic, when my day job is being a YouTuber, and it was like when I was sort of at the peak of all of that, all my popularity over there. And so I thought it would be really easy to get somebody to buy the book because I already had a pretty big online audience. I was like, piece of cake. And it helps that it's a book that I'm proud of too. And then what happened was we went to a bunch of agents, and I live in LA. I have my manager is connected to a lot of literary agents. We went right to them, and all of them passed, but they said really nice things when they passed. And my manager was confused because she was like, "Well, I know these people. They would tell me if they didn't like the book. They'd be like, 'Hey, your client wrote a bad book. You should know.' They're like, 'No, it's a fun book. I don't want it.'" And we couldn't figure out what this was. And so I started doing research into like, okay, well, who are the agents and publishing houses that like a lot of the people I like to read are working with? Like maybe I can skip the line. I can find somebody to talk to, something like that. And what happened was that's when I discovered how many of the guys I'd been reading were actually self-published. And so then I started researching that, and I was like, oh, this is a very similar process to being a YouTuber. When you make a YouTube video, you come up with a video idea, you film it, you edit it, you get a thumbnail made and a title. When you write a book, you write it, you edit it, you get a cover made, you come up with a title, and then you publish it, right? Like they're very similar processes. And so I decided eventually to self-publish it because I was like, well, I have a skill set that sort of aligns with this. Let's give it a shot. And then what I sort of discovered after that was that pub urban fantasy was really like at a decline right there. So no publishers were looking to publish urban fantasy. And so that's why the agents didn't want it, is they didn't think they could sell it. It just wasn't like a popular genre at the time. And so that's what put me on the process. But doing that is how I met the guys at Athon. And I didn't end up even really querying to them. We became friends, and they were like, "Hey, if you ever have a project you think we'd be a good fit for, send it to us." And so I wrote the first third of Ironbound, and I sent it to Steve, who's one of the owners of Athon. And like a couple days later, he was like, "Yeah, I think we can do this." And then we did it. So that was the process.
So how did that, like, because they're so different in a way, like have you always kind of been interested in like the lit RPG and progression fantasy? Because Ironbound is very much considered a progression fantasy, right? Like that's how I view it. Is that something you've always been interested in because of like the gaming and things like that?
Not necessarily, actually. I encountered it, kind of when Cradle was coming out.
Such a good
Uh,
story.
I mean, yeah, it's phenomenal. And I when I was reading Cradle, I was like, oh, I see what you're doing here, right? Like this is the blending of video
Mhm.
game rules and magic. I didn't grow up watching a ton of anime and things like that. I'm familiar. I have watched some, but it wasn't like a huge passion of mine. And so, I think a lot of that like style has emerged from a lot of like Chinese, Japanese, Korean storytelling. And so that's not a area I'm as steeped in. But then after Cradle, I started exploring, learning more. And a lot of indie authors that are doing well right now are writing lit RPG. And so I met a bunch of them like Seth Ring, Matt Dinneman, a bunch of those guys who were like, you should try this genre. Like it's a better genre for indies. It's what people are more excited about right now. And so I started researching it more, and I was like, oh, I have stories I could tell that would fit here. Like I had kind of things cooking, and so that's what sort of led me over to that side of things.
Yeah, so the first one I can't remember it because it's been years now. For me, if the first like progression fantasy like lit RPG I ever read was either Cradle or it was Land of the Undying Lord by T.J. Wright. It
Oh,
was
sure.
it was one of those two. I can't remember which one it was first, but they were both like free on Audible. And I was like, oh, let's see what this is about. And I was like, this is really good. And then like I binged like all 12 of them at the time or 10 of them. And I think there's only like 3 or 4 of the Undying Lord series. And I just couldn't like put that stuff down. Like I was just
Yeah.
stuck on those books forever. And then now like it's becoming like bigger and bigger. Like I feel like Cradle was the first like really like big success in that kind of genre, and then like Dungeon Crawler Carl has taken it to like a different level. Like those things they're fucking everywhere. Like
Those two were the first to really punch out of the genre. There
yeah,
are there are a lot of authors that are selling a lot of copies to people who like really like the fan base that only reads lit RPG and doesn't necessarily go outside of it. There is a huge amount of it that reads very voraciously, but it's like its
oh
own little kind of niche thing that if you don't do it, you don't know about. But yeah, Cradle and DCC were the ones that were like, and it works for everybody, even if you're not like super into that genre
yeah,
or whatever.
and that's kind of how I viewed it too. Like there's always like subgenres that people like become like obsessed with, and that's great. But those ones like really outpunched their weight class, and then
Oh yeah,
like they both kind of I felt like started off slow and then like out of nowhere like took off and got massive. Like it was like I think like 2 years ago I started reading like Dungeon Crawler Carl. I think it was only like 6 books were out yet, and like they were kind of popular, like you were saying, but not like
not
over
like
the
now.
moon.
Yeah.
And now it's like you could just say like Dungeon Crawler Carl, and people are like, "I'm going to follow this guy." Like
Yep. No,
it's
it's
crazy.
crazy. And I met Matt at a independent author convention. I think 3, if not 4 years ago now. Where like DCC was doing well, and like inside of lit RPG, people were like, "That's like one of our best. Like that's like
Mhm.
that's crushing it." And it was like right when like the trad publishing side was just beginning to happen, and he was I remember talking to him about it. And he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna see what happens. You know, a little experiment. Who knows? Might do something cool." And then it just And now it's like I have friends who are like don't read, who know that I like books because I write books, and they're like, "Have you heard of this Dungeon Crawler Carl?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have."
Like, yeah,
Like
me
I
and
just
Matt
read
are
it. It's really
boys.
fun. Yeah, but it's so funny that it's like one of my best friends from growing up. She texted me the other day. She's like, "I'm getting back into reading. I'm reading this series. I think you'd really like it, Dungeon Crawler Carl." If anybody comes to me and wants to recommend a series, it's Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I'm like, "Yeah, well,
Luckily, luckily for me, I am like I read all over the place. So like when someone tells me they're like they got a book for me, I never know what it could be. But odds are right now it's gonna be Dungeon Crawler Carl because it's a phenomenon. Like, and I think it's great. Like
oh, it's amazing."
I
Yeah,
love when we get these books that are just break like the internet in a way, and like everyone's reading it. Like the girls that read spicy books are reading it, and like they're thinking about Carl running around in his hard underwear. So getting back to your books because we kind of had
I
like
guess we could talk about mine.
dude. You know what's funny though? Like because the last time I did an interview with you, um, I was talking about it at work, and one of the guys was like, because I didn't know that you were like a streamer, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
because it kept popping up in the comments, people were like, what a like a FYP pool. And I'm like, I don't know like why they're like I didn't really know about it. And then I was showing it to him and he was like, holy shit, I used to watch it on YouTube. Like he knew exactly who you were, and I was like, that's kind of funny. Like
That's
because
really funny.
the only streamer I watch, I'll be honest with you right now, is like Burnt Peanut because he makes me laugh.
Sure.
He's so
Funny
funny.
guy. Yeah.
But I don't really watch a whole lot of streaming. And
Me neither.
I could imagine that it could kind of in a way give you a leg up because like you do have the like an underlying base of people that at least are going to start to try to give your book a shot compared to like
Yeah.
the average person.
For sure. Yeah, the like the overlap of people who like video games and books are not always as like one to one as you'd think, right? So like I think when the first book, a lot of the audience was just pumped because they were like, writing a book is hard. I'm super, excited for you. And then when I wrote Dandelion Audit, they were like, another one?
Like we're doing
And
more.
yeah, we're still doing this, which was very funny. Uh, but yeah, no, it definitely gives me a thing. It also, I think, is just a lot of practice of how to hold people's attention, how to make things for other people, and like put yourself into the mind of like the person watching the video or reading the book, and like trying to build it so that it works for them rather than just making something, right? Because like if you make something just based on like what's the most fun way to make a video, that doesn't necessarily make the best video or the best book. And so I think it's a lot of practice of just like speaking to an audience um, through whatever medium I'm using. So like it's easier for me to kind of be thinking about that as I'm writing or whatever.
So, how did you come up with the idea for Soul Fraud? Like, where did that gem come from? Because I'm telling you, like, it's such a good idea for a book that it's like almost criminal. Like,
Uh, it's a really funny story actually because it's based in some reality. My last like real job before I got into gaming and YouTube and then writing was I was in corporate sales, like big business sales. And what happened was one day we had a meeting. We all got called in by like the VP because somebody, not in our like building, but like in our bigger company, had done that. Like there was a sales rep who was behind on their quota and just re-upped a bunch of people for some big contracts and just kind of assumed they wouldn't notice and got caught. And so it was a like, hey, don't do this. And I had already written an urban fantasy novel that I wasn't very happy with, but it had sort of like a deal with the devil-esque element to it, but I felt like it was missing something. And so I'm sitting in this meeting learning about how a sales rep, forged signatures on these big contracts. And I was like, wait a second. It'd be crazy is if somebody did that on like, a Faustian type of deal. And that was really like the impetus for the whole idea. It was like, okay, well, what would happen? How would the pieces fall out? That was the kind of thing. That was how we got off to the races with it.
yeah, for me, like the amount of like little darts you throw in there that like are recognizable for like the average reader. Like for instance, like this isn't much of a spoiler, but like if anybody knows anything about Crossroads, like for you to throw in that like old bluesy, like that old blues dude, I'm like, that's such a sick pool that like I don't know how many people know that backstory, but like to me, I was like, that's fucking awesome. Like it was so funny. And like they're answering the phone, like, enjoy some music. Bye. I'm like, this is like it just works for me, man. It's dope.
I'm glad because that's actually that kind of like the world building sort of like intermingling um, is my favorite part of the series in a lot of ways. We're like, there's a line that Alex says to Matt, the main character in the first book. It's very early on. It's not a spoiler, but the sort of like rule for myths in this urban fantasy world is that everything is real, but not everything is true. Meaning that like what you've heard isn't necessarily how it is, but like it exists, it functions, it participates. And that rule is so much fun for world building because then you get to have moments where you try to summon a demon at a crossroads and they put you on hold and it's like one of the most evil things and like, not one of the most evil things, but like a very evil and complicated business is copyright law, right? And so the idea of somebody like selling their soul to be better at playing an instrument and then having all of their copyright music held by like hell so they can play it on their hold line, hilarious to me. But that's like such a like obscure little like niche part of it.
Like
Uh, but it like makes me very happy when those little pieces pop in.
Yeah, when they put him on hold, I chuckled. I'm like, that is so fucking stupid. The amount of little like, and I love that when you can get a book where you don't like, it's not necessarily like a belly roll of like, holy god, like this is the most funniest thing. But those moments when it's like there's intense shit going on and it's crazy, like just crazy shit happen, and then they like give each other a high five. Like that
Yep.
little high five, like set the tone for this book so much, like for this series for me that I'm like, oh, these guys aren't going to take shit serious almost ever. Like,
Well, if they did, it would break their mind, right?
yeah,
Like, especially in the debt collection, like Castor in Ironbound. Part of the reason I think it's okay for him to be serious is that like the conceit of the world has been understood by him the whole time, right? We have magic. It works like this. Our gods are dead. This. The things that he finds that aren't true aren't like life operates completely differently than you thought. Yes, it is different, but it's not like the same where Matt is like a 25-year adult and they're like, all right, here's magic. Your soul's been stolen. Hey, good luck, idiot. Right. And
yeah,
so he, especially as the books go on, gets sucked into bigger and dumber things that like, I think that at 25, if you took it as just straight up serious face value, oh, he would be a wreck. Right. So it's like you're staring into the abyss. The only thing he can do is crack a joke.
yeah. And like you said, the way that you've like weaved in like these so many like old stories and like things because like you said like everything is kind of true but not like it gives you a really cool license to do a lot of cool things and throw darts like this could stick and it for me like they all have stuck so like
That's awesome.
it's been so fun like I've been like really tearing through a lot of like lit RPG and progression fantasy this year because like I've told a lot of people like my goal is to like up my game because I've always liked progression fantasy and lit RPG. But for me, I'm setting a goal for myself for like next year to go to Lit RPG Con and be like
Oh, yeah, dude.
and be a panelist. Like that's something I want to try to do. But I keep throwing in other books to try to break up the monotony of like because I'm very much a mood reader, so like I'll bounce back and forth. And your book for me, it feels so much like I'm reading a young Dresden Files book. Like it feels like Harry Dresden, like when he's young, and like it just works really well. The like I can't
That's awesome.
I'm
I'll
gonna keep
take that.
saying it and it's annoying. I'm like annoying myself that I keep saying it, but like because I'm so deep in it right now, you're the first
Yeah.
person I've interviewed while I'm actively reading one of your books.
Oh,
So
yeah, you're not like done. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they're so fresh in my mind that I'm like wanting to tell everybody. Like I've told like five guys at work, like, dude, like this is so good. Like this is such a cool little thing. And
And you're doing the audio too, right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm a
Michael Mola,
machine.
who reads,
It's so
he
perfect.
he's so perfect. I like when I heard his audition because again, I direct the like we do all the audiobook in house, so I held auditions. I found him, and he read it, and I was like, "That's how Matt talks in my head." Boom, perfect. And he only gets better as it goes. The last couple like books, his performance have been like insane. It's so good.
That's another thing that I actually wanted to bring up, but because I do mostly audiobooks, like I'll do
Mhm.
like immersion reads like when I'm at home, but because I'm a machinist, I have a lot of like downtime at work, so I can listen to books. That's how I do most of my books.
Yeah.
And your narrators for both, like they fit the books so well. Like I forget his name off the top of my head because I'm bad with names, but
For Ironbound,
yes,
it's Ralph Lister.
yeah, I've done a couple of his books and really enjoyed like all of them. Like I think he does a
He's
very
a
good
legend.
job,
He's a legend. Yeah.
and it just fit like the tone of the book so well that I'm like, man, like like it fits, like it's such a so works, and I feel like that's really important because a bad narrator for an audiobook can
Oh,
just not do it justice.
if it
Yeah,
doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, right? Like, that was the debt collection was really hard to like cast actually because it is like kind of like you said, it's not a comedy, but it does have a lot of funny little moments in it, right? And a
yeah,
lot of narrators had phenomenal voices, read really well, but they read Matt very like straight and flat. And
yeah.
I was like, oh no, you can't do that. Like everything's exploding and he's gonna tell a dumb joke. Like it has to be a little, you have to break it up a little bit. And Michael just nailed the comedy aspect, the comedic aspect of it, rather, I would say. And we're so lucky to have him.
Yeah, like there's moments, and I wanted to talk more about Cold Wind, but because I'm
We
reading,
haven't even mentioned Cold Wind once, I don't think.
I'm so like obsessed right now with Soul Fraud that
Hey, dude,
like
I'll take it.
there's been like like in book, well, like 1.5, was it Pod, is it Pod Piper, what is it,
Piper's Price.
Piper's Price, like when he's trying to read their mouths and he's like, no, he wouldn't say that, like that's not what he's saying, like just like those little things that like I'm like putting like a piece in the thing, I'm like 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 you get those little chuckles out of it, but it's it just is such a good, like the dynamic between the two series for me to go from Cold Wind, basically I went from Cold Wind straight into Soul Fraud.
Oh
So like
man, okay.
they're just so different, but I'm enjoying them so much. Like I've been on a really good run because I've been like I went through a lot of Atheon books lately. Like I did He Who Fights with Monsters.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
I did Rune Seeker. Then I did Cold Wind, and now I'm doing this. Like it's been, like I've been on a pretty good like ride of
That's a
books,
tear. Yeah.
and I've just been like pretty lucky the last like 2 months of having like really good books that have kept me engaged. Because sometimes you can read a book, and also I did the Parade of Horribles too, in that time, like
Yep.
through all those, like right up. So I went, actually take it back. I did Parade of Horribles after Rune Seeker, then I did your book after I did Cold Wind after that, after Parade of Horribles. So I've been on like a pretty good run
That's
of
that's
books
a
lately.
run.
Yeah.
Parade of
What
Horribles was a lot of fun.
what are you reading? Are you reading anything currently? Like how does your process work for you as you're writing?
Um, I love to read. I have been editing lately, and so when I'm editing, my desire to read kind of plummets because I'm spending 3 to 4 hours a day editing me, which is you. I can't like turn it off. Like everything I read then is like, oh, I wouldn't have said like that. Like it just like
Yeah.
it's like noise. But I'm now done with editing, so I'm going back to writing. So that's exciting. I did just finish Parade of Horribles, which I enjoyed a lot. Took me a little longer to read than usual because I was editing. And I think I'm supposed to read. I've got a couple things that I'm supposed to read that aren't out yet because I have to give send blurbs. So those are kind of next up on my list. But also, I have ZB Steele's second book, The Rising Gale, which that was one of my favorite indie books of last year. Was Whispers of the Storm. So I'm very excited to read. That's going to be reading for me once I get to it.
So do you try to usually stick to like just fantasy or like progression like what's the genre that you kind of like bounce around a lot?
Um, I probably sit inside sci-fi and fantasy the most. I would say that actually I think my true favorite is sci-fi. But I think that sci-fi is more hit or miss, right? Like if you are looking at the list of all my series that I love, there are probably more fantasy on there, but the top is all sci-fi, or more sci-fi than anything else, if that makes sense. So I'm always looking for like a sci-fi to really dig into. But I stick between sci-fi and fantasy the most.
That's for me. That's personally like my jam too. Like I don't read enough sci-fi, well, not enough, but it's like it's always like on the back burner. Like when I find something that's like really interesting, I'll know I'll like it a lot. But for the most part, I've noticed that I stick mostly to like fantasy, progression, like lit RPG. Like that's more my jam. And then I
Yeah,
also like I'll go to some of those old classics like Dracula every once in a while, like to kind of like split shit up. But it's I've been like I've had a pretty good year of reading. Like last year was I had like a pretty shitty year of reading. Like I just didn't do a whole lot. And like right now I'm on like 23rd book of the year so far. Like so I'm doing pretty decent compared to like last year. It was not a great year.
you're zooming, dude. Yeah, that's I'm at like five, but I've been writing and editing all year, so that's I've been really slow this year.
So how is your process for when you actually are writing something? Like do you have a like I want to hit so many words for the day or you work so many
Ideally,
hours?
yeah, it alternates between day words and hours, kind of depending on how the book is going. So because usually they're about like they're usually in how I know how many words I'm going to get out of how many hours, right? When I switch to hours is when I'm at a part of the book that's harder, and so maybe it's I'm having to stop and think more. I'm having to kind of like try things, and those are days where like I don't punish myself for not making like a score progress. Instead, I reward myself for like sitting down and putting in my normal amount of time and accepting that like this part of the book I'm going to write slower than another part of the book. Because then there will also be parts of the book where sometimes it's like some of the fight scenes are like, there are things where like I know what's happening and they're just we're full flow state. And in those ones, in the same amount of time, I'll write more. So it kind of like ends up averaging out. I usually try to write about 3,000 words a day, which usually comes down to about 2 hours of writing. Um, that varies depending on the book, though.
So, how do you feel like now that you're juggling in a way two series at once? Because you're not done with Debt Collection, and you're also still working with Ironbound stuff. Like, how does it a struggle sometimes to juggle them?
It is, but it was also the right thing to do because, like I was saying, urban fantasy is just not in a place where like people aren't looking for it the same way. And so if I had just spent another 2 or 3 years finishing the debt collection before writing anything else, um, I think I would have burned myself out and I wouldn't have really reached readers. And so by switching to Ironbound, I got to bring in a whole new excited reading base. Every time an Ironbound book comes out, the debt collection is getting read more now than it has ever, right? And that's just because of the people who are reading Ironbound and then coming over, or the book talkers and all of you guys who are talking about it, and people are going and checking it out. And so that has completely changed my ability to focus on it because it's now, writing is a part of my job at this point. And so now the debt collection has enough momentum on it that I can count it as part of my job rather than like a very expensive hobby. It was mostly like breaking even, right? It was about like where it was at, which is fine and great. And I was fortunate to be doing so. But in terms of like trying to do this as a career, we were hitting a moment where it was like, I have to figure out how I'm going to make all these things work. And so it is tricky because I have to get in a different headspace. I have to really gear shift every time I switch. Like, if I switch over to the debt collection, the first couple chapters, I'm like, oh, it has to be funny. Like not like hilarious, but like Matt reacts differently. Like I'm ready to just headbutt through walls like Castor does, and it's like, okay, no, we gotta, it's gotta be weird, it's gotta be twisted, it's gotta be different, and then I usually have to rewrite the first couple chapters because I'm like, who am I again? And then same thing when I go back to Ironbound, it's like, well, not everything's a joke. Okay.
Yeah, that would be funny for him to just throw out like a weird ass joke in the middle of a fight somewhere.
I've deleted more than you would ever believe. Where I'm like, that's a Matt joke. Nope, 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 nope. Yep.
So, how did the idea for Ironbound come about for you? Like, you kind of explained soul fraud, but like, where did the idea? Because it's a really good idea. Like, I actually the premise of it once again, like you have like good premises to your book, like the ideas that I feel like you bring into your books in a way like breathe life and breathe in like it's gonna like a it's not like a good word but like a reality to them, like they feel like kind of real and like
Mm.
easily understandable, if that makes sense, like it's not like too complicated.
Yeah. Um, that's a blend of a lot of things. I would say that like the real big core of what became sort of the idea for Ironbound was I've always loved Jim Butcher's Codex Alera, which is his like Roman Empire Legion elemental magic story, and I loved Cradle, and both of those series had things I didn't like about them, but like I love like their cores or whatever. Like or and when I say didn't like, that's not even what I mean. It's that like that wouldn't be the pieces that I would use. For example, like I was saying, Cradle, I don't have as much of an anime background or things like that, so having that story that's set in a very like Eastern feeling culture, I don't know that culture well enough to use those pieces comfortably, right? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what I'm doing. But I do know the Roman Empire. I have a classical education. I've learned Latin and Greek. I'm unfortunately steeped in all of it. And so when I read Cradle, I was like, wow, this is super sick. I wouldn't know how to use like the same kind of like setting in a fantasy culture like that, but I could do it from like the Romans. I know that. And then that's like, well, one of my favorite fantasy series is Codex Alera and how it used Rome. I think there's a lot of fun ways to mix Rome and fantasy together. But both those series are written in third person. So I prefer first person. So it's always like, okay, I'm going to write it in first person and kind of build it out from there. And that was like the beginning of it, and then I had to sit down and sort of come up with the beginning of the magic system. And then I'm very much a write by feel kind of person. I don't visualize very well. I have to like touch it. I have to like kind of like have it in my hands to understand what it is or how it is. So I had a vibe, I had an idea, I had like a vague direction. And then beginnings are very important to me. Like Stephen King's book called Unwriting, which is all about like how his writing career, but a big thing that he's really known for is how good his like concepts are and his beginnings are. That was something I focused on, and then by using the magic system, we were able to refine it. I changed it a lot from like what its original idea was to something that actually felt good and felt easy to explain as we go through, because I don't like to be overcomplicated. And then it just sort of grew organically, where like, you know, I didn't have any plan for the gods when I started the book. And then Valentina says a couple chapters in, she's like, well, the gods are dead. And I wrote that. And then I kind of like leaned back in my chair and was like, are the gods dead? Do we have gods? I don't know. And then that became a huge part of the story, but it was really just by like feel. Like I immediately liked how that made that world feel. And I was like, okay, cool. What can I do with that?
Yeah, that was that. I think that's one of the cool things is the way you've weaved in and out of that question, just that question alone, like through the first two books, and to see where it's gone without giving things away, like in the book two, and like the oaths that people keep taking, and they're like, dude, just stop fucking making like stop.
But he's always in a bad situation, right? Like it it's easy to say don't do it, but also what is he supposed to do? He's always like stuck, right? It's he's got no good options.
Yeah, he was given like a shitty hand, like from like book one, like how
Yeah.
things rolled out for him. He's like it's hey Jen, like it's really cool, right? Like, but also really bad for him. Like the
Yep.
way, like where he can take what's given to him and what happened is like in a way, in my mind at least, like almost endless, like limitless, like the things he can do and pull off. And that's why everyone I feels like around him is like, this dude is different, but we don't know why he's different. Like,
Yep.
but also if people find out about it, it's really bad for him that they find out about it because he's not quite ready enough to be able to defend himself fully with what he could be. And that premise is such a cool idea, and that you turned it into like a gladiator series in a way. Like, I don't think is that's not really a spoiler for book two, because
It's a
like
tiny one, but
I didn't. What's the blurb for it on the back of it? Because I don't read them.
it doesn't ever say the word gladiator, but it like implies it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and at the end of book one, it's clear that we're doing something different, right? Like the ending of book one is like, we're going somewhere else. There's more to this story now. And
That's
which was on purpose because book one it's not a setup book. We did a ton of really cool stuff in book one, but book one is a like tone setting. And then
yeah,
book two is a like, all right, we got to zoom out. We got to do more.
that's the hardest thing about discussing like book twos and book threes, because I've always told people like everything in my mind is in a way a spoiler.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because like there's a person that is in like a sticky spot in book one, and if I mention them in book two, then you instantly know, well, they get through this sticky situation.
Exactly. And it depends on the genre some too, right? You've read enough of my stuff now that you know that I lie to you a lot. So like we can't always like talk about some things because I've been lying. I'm sorry. But
Yeah, it's they. I'm trying to not talk about. I'm trying to talk about Cold Mouth, but like the it's a struggle to not talk about because there's so many cool things and it's so fresh in my mind that like I'm actively like right now. Actually, I did lie. I'm not the crossroads anymore. I'm just past it.
okay.
Where like he's meeting someone for the first time and he's all like all messed up, and it's just like the ideas and the little premises and the little things you've thrown into Soul Fraud. Just for me personally, well, not Soul Fraud, but Debt Collection. Like I just think they're so awesome, man. Like it really works cool, and like for me to go from Cold Wind to that was such a change of pace that like was perfect in a way that because
That's
like
awesome.
you can kind of burn yourself out of reading like progression fantasy and like
Totally.
and because people are always like progressing or like lit RPG, especially lit RPG. For me, lit RPG is a little worse because it's a lot of times it ends up feeling like the same book over and over again, like
All right.
in a way because
That
it's
number
always
goes
like,
up.
yeah, like they're trying to grind for numbers and they're trying to get stronger, and or they're just crawling through this dungeon and shit. And these, every book in a way feels like their own story, and that's why I kind of like urban fantasy. And I really like Jim Butcher's books. Like I've been obsessed with the Dresden Files for
Oh,
a long time
he's one of the greatest writers of our generation, or his generation.
because
I guess technically he's the generation ahead, but like,
each that's the thing I like about his books is because each book is like its own book with like an undertow of like the same storyline, which I feel like is such a cool idea and a little different that you get in like other fantasy books. You know, like
yeah, it's become the like expectation of urban fantasy. Is urban fantasy has an expectation of episodicness to it,
mhm,
where like each episode, each book has a like thing that we're dealing with that is contained to that book, and then also advances,
yeah,
the meta plot.
it's like watching a
Um,
TV show. Like
it
each
is, well, yeah, and then you had like things like Supernatural, right? Like urban fantasy when it was at its peak had such a like 16 seasons of Supernatural, all
yeah,
these things that all had these kind of like Monster of the Week, even stuff like Larry Craig's Monster Hunter International, and all those kind of things. They all had this like this episode we will be dealing with this thing, and we're gonna have this enemy, and we're gonna figure it out, and it's part of something else that's going on, but we'll get into that later. And that's a really really fun
what are
thing to write.
what are some other urban fantasies that you've personally enjoyed? Because I haven't read a whole lot of them. But Jim Butcher to me is like peak of that.
Well,
So
he's the king. He's the king of urban fantasy.
yeah,
There is Eric Carter by Stephen Blackmore, which is about a necromancer who lives in LA. It's like a little bit. It's darker. It's very good. Has that same sort of thing of like building, scaling plot that's happening outside of like the episodic things that are dealt with. Jim Butcher's son James Butcher also has an urban fantasy series called The Unorthodox Chronicles, which I quite like. Um, there's also the Iron Druid, which is a little hit or miss for people, but has a lot of fun mythology worked into it. That does like that side of it really well. It's like a druid who is hiding from the gods and lives in I think Tempe, Arizona, or somewhere in Arizona. Um, those are some of the big ones. Urban fantasy is like sci-fi for me, where it's the ones that hit phenomenally, and the ones, but they're like few and far between. I don't necessarily just like, I'm not like always loving it. I get like
yeah.
picky.
I read one that I want to read again because I can't remember. Like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like I wasn't like blown away by it. It was called like I think it was called Faded. It's
Oh, who wrote Faded? I can look that up.
it's
Yes.
that's the one where it's like a wizard in London.
Oh, Alex Ferris. Yeah, that's the other one. Benedict Jocka also is
Yeah,
like one of the really, really, really.
and
I've read his other one, which the name is escaping me. The more recent series. I haven't read that one yet.
it made me chuckle when I remember reading like the first book, and he gives like a tip of the cap to Dresden in there because he talks about he's like there's actually a wizard in Chicago
Oh yeah, yeah,
that
that's
has
the one
his
that does
name in
that,
the
right? Yeah.
newspaper. Like, and he's like, "Can you believe that?" And I was like, "That's kind of funny." That like, in a way, he put himself in Harry Dresden's world without, and like to me, without like realizing it. But like, it was still cool to see. Like, I always like those things when people give tips, like those little like subtle nods. Like that's why when you said like the Mab thing, like I instantly messaged you. I'm like, "Hey, like, like was this?"
Yeah, and it is, but it also isn't because I know where he's getting it from, right?
Yeah,
But it is a nod. I didn't use her on purpose because I was like, no, 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 that's your thing. Like,
yeah.
uh,
Well, that's why, like, because I didn't know that. Like, for me, like, when I hear Mab, I think of Harry Dresden now. Like, I
yes, oh, for
don't.
sure.
So when that came up, I was like, oh, that's fucking dope. Like
Yes, it was a deliberate nod, but it was also a like, but also I know where you got it from.
that. Have you got to talk to like
I've
to
never
Jim
I've never
Butcher?
met I've never met Jim. One time I did a panel at Dragon Con where he was the next panel. So there was just a massive line waiting for us to be done with our panel, and then we walked out and everyone came in to see him, and that's about as close as I've
They're
gotten.
like, get out of the way. I think that like for me, as like now that I'm like doing kind of content and stuff, whenever you meet those like or talk to some of them like really big name authors that like message you back, like I've had like small conversations with John Gwynn. I'm
He is the
I'm
nicest man in the entire world.
I'm trying to get him on. Like we've talked
Please.
about it, but he was like in the midst of writing his like his newest book coming out, and I just haven't reached back out to him yet. I've had a couple conversations with Jay Kristoff. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
read.
nice. Oh yeah, I've read Empire of Vampire. Loved it. He's
So
good friends
good.
with Ryan Cahill, who has nothing but nice things to say about him. I have not met Jay personally though.
I've been thinking about asking him because he doesn't have a TikTok. Asking him if he wants to do an interview over on Instagram. But I would fangirl out like bad because his that Empire of the Vampire, like
It was a lot of fun.
I went and seen him in West Virginia, which kind of surprised me that he was like ever doing a book signing in West Virginia. No offense to West Virginia, but there's not a whole lot of big towns in West Virginia for him to be doing like all
That's
the
quite
other
a
ones.
tour.
Yeah, all the other ones were like he was a world tour. Like he's going
Yeah,
like Atlanta and L.A. and then like like this small town in West
West
Virginia
Virginia.
that I never even heard of, like the town. I'm like it wasn't
That's
even like the
funny.
capital of West Virginia. It was like some small like I'm
Yeah,
like how
I wonder how
fuck?
that happened. That's so funny.
It was so random. Like it was like New York, West Virginia, Atlanta, like Miami, Dallas. You're like fucking okay.
Somebody has a cousin there who owns a bookstore, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, bring him here. It'd be
I
great."
apparently like they get big names all the time. I guess it's like really close to like Baltimore and like
Oh, it's
Washington.
like a convenient like
It's like
transit spot.
yeah, it's like an in
Yeah. Okay.
between
Okay.
kind of deal. And I guess it's still a really big bookstore. But they also it was like at a small college, like that's like where the thing
That's so
was.
cool.
It was cool, and I remember asking him like what his deal was with the horses, like why he like, and he kind of chuckled about it and said like for him it's his way of showing like that like the main character is in like legitimate danger because he can't take care of like he can't off the main character like
Right,
of
but
the
everything
book,
around him is dying.
but
Yeah,
everything else around him is not making it out of this scene. So you know it's like really close for them to not make it.
I might have some sympathy with that. Yeah,
And I was like, that's funny. But like I'm really like I keep trying to grow with doing these like interviews and it's always fun to get people because not everyone wants to do them and
sure. Yeah,
it's kind of hard, you know, like and also like for us, for at least for me, like sometimes it's a little like nerve wracking to throw like, hey, like because you're human and you don't want to get like rejected, like, like that shit sucks too. Like I tried to get Jeff Hayes on, but like it's not like you can really talk to Jeff Hayes. Like there's like a
yeah.
team you got to go. Like he's so popular.
Man's busy. Man is
Yeah.
busy.
So I was like, yeah, my name's Jeff too. Like you know, it's open, but like because I'm not talking to them directly, like other people are making those decisions for them. Like sometimes, like not everyone's that way, of course, but there are certain authors that there's like a wall between them
Totally.
and
Oh
their
yeah.
readers, and some of them there's not. Like, and I feel like John Gwynn and Jay Kristoff and like you, and there's some other ones that are they're way more open and you
I'm not
know
sure I belong on the same list, but yeah, that's fine.
well, I personally feel like your books are going to get to that level. Like,
Would not complain.
yeah, well, because to me, like, I remember reading the first time I read Ironbound, I'm like, this is going to be a big book. Like, I remember reading it and thinking, like, people are going to love this. And so far, everyone I've talked to that has read it has adored it. Like, I'm in a Discord group. There was, like, actually, like, some close friends. Like, I don't know if Rachel's sitting here. I know she's currently reading it. And she was like really excited that I was going to have an interview with you because she's currently reading it right now.
And then we've just talked about the debt collection the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time. And but like everyone has enjoyed it, so that's how I know. I'm like, it may take a second. I could see it being one of those series where it's like, in a way, kind of like how like it had like that slow build, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it's having a pretty steady trajectory up,
It's trickling. It's doing good.
and it doesn't surprise me at all because it was very well done. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember like as soon as it closed, I was like, shit, now I have to wait for like the next one because I'm
Well,
so
and,
used
and
to.
I
Go
was
ahead.
I was nervous with Cold Wind because it is different. That I was like, man, I really hope people haven't signed up for like the very specific vibe of what Ironbound is because we're gonna do it different, right? Like it's not gonna be it's the same characters, the same problems, but it's like in a different setting. We're expanding. We're dealing with some new things. And I was like, cool. I hope everybody's cool. Like, follow me. I'm going somewhere. I promise.
Yeah, for me the cool thing is once you started getting into like the political games that are getting moved and the new characters that you brought in to it are so interesting in their own right without like this is the hard part about talking about like these books because it's hard to not give certain shit away. But there's characters you brought in, and there's interests that are happening where you can kind of see things happening and see things blossoming, and you're like nervous for him to where it's going to go and what's going to happen. And it's such a fun ride, like in its own right. Like it is very different from book one, but in a really good way. Like it's
Yeah.
there's not like sometimes you could have that like second book like decline, and I don't feel like you have that at all with this next one.
I was trying really hard not to. My favorite fantasy and sci-fi books are the one that like book one to book two is a zoom out where they're like, okay, great. Like book one, we were, we were in the kiddie pool. We were learning. I got you into like what the vibe is. All right, now here's what's going on.
Yeah,
That's like my favorite. My favorite part of world building is like the zoom out of like, okay, I understand this much, and then you're like, and you're like, oh my god, what's going on?
well, I feel like that's what you did really good with book two, is because like it felt like he was walking through the world with like blinders on because everyone told him like this is how things happen, this is what's going on, this is what it is, and then now he's like really finding out there's so much more outside of his blinders that he never really realized were there. Like, and he's like, wait a minute, like that's not how it should be at all. And they're like, well, it's fucking how it is, dude. Like this is life. Like
Yep.
all of us are playing a game and trying to figure out how to not screw it up. And he is like the ultimate chess piece, but like the chess piece, if people find out what that chess piece is like a stick of dynamite. Like
Yep.
it could blow everything up.
Well, it's funny because sometimes I see comments where people feel like Castor never loses, and I like wildly disagree. I feel like Castor loses even when he wins every single time, which is like sort of the one of the tenets of the ideas that I'm like playing with in the thing is that like strength is not always winning.
Yeah, well, see, for me, I view it differently. Like I view it kind of similar to you because like every see this is why it's hard to talk about these things. Like every fight, if it doesn't go perfectly for him, it's catastrophic.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
for
The
him,
stakes are bigger than just like winning.
yeah, like he has to win. Like like he has to figure out a way to win, and also because of the way the book has been set up, in my mind, this is how I'm viewing it. Just so, like, it's like he's ahead of where he should be because of things that happened to him previously. So everyone's looking at him that he's weaker than what he is because they don't know what he is. It's
Yep.
like they're like, we have no idea what this guy is, but he's only a silver, so he's cool with the silvers, and you're like, yeah, but he's kind of not. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like, well, you don't really know. Like you said, you don't like. It's like Goku. Like everyone's like looking at Goku, like, who the fuck is this dude? And you're like, well, he's a Saiyan, like, so he's way stronger than what he's supposed to be. Like he is broken, like, and that's why people keep bringing it up. Like, yeah, dude, like you're like, what the fuck are you? Like, what is going on here?
There's something wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, like they look at him like they're all like, you're not normal. Like you're a nice dude, but there's something wrong here. And that's to me, that's his stakes. And like you said, people keep finding out these little like tidbits about him, and he's like trying not to, but he's not a bad guy, so he doesn't like lying to people. So there's like this like internal struggle of him, like, I don't want to lie to you, like, but I kind of have to. Like,
I must. Yeah.
yeah. And then you added in like all these oaths he keeps throwing out there that really
Don't worry, there's
screw him
no
over.
oaths in book three. There are oaths in book three.
But it's so funny because like the oaths that he takes compel him to do things. Like you said, that like he may win, but he's kind of losing something in that same premise.
Yeah.
Because he keeps doing it. Like, they're a fun ride, man. I've really enjoyed all your books. Like
I'm
I actually
thrilled.
I actually didn't know. So this is kind of a funny thing because I'm doing them on Audible. I didn't realize that it was 1.5. That it was like an. So
okay.
I went straight to the next one and I was like, oh, this is a novella. So I blew through it in like a day at work and like instantly went on to the next one. But it was because once again, how you tie things in, it didn't feel like a novella, and the way you rounded it out really fine. Like it wasn't like, usually I don't like the only person's novellas I ever actually have read, if I'm being honest with you, are Ryan Cahill's because I feel like he does them
Yeah.
really well. But usually, like a lot of Jim Butcher's, like I've skipped over them because like I'm so thirsty to get to the next book. Like I
Well,
want to
and
just
he's
keep.
so good at the like big story, right? That you're like, no, 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 I want all the pieces. Give me the thing. The
Did,
yeah, yeah,
did,
yeah.
did you read his last one, the 12?
12 months. Oh, I think it's some of his best writing ever. It's crazy.
The way that he like put Dresden through like depression and like sadness, I felt like was some of the most realistic like
Yep.
depression and sadness I've ever read. Like it
Yeah. No,
really felt dark, you know.
that was. It felt like it was coming from a very real place. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like he understood what he was talking about. And it was phenomenally done. It's not my absolute favorite, but I think in terms of like technical writing, man,
What if we can go there for a second? What's your favorite Dresden book?
I think it's Skin Game. Um, if it's not Skin Game, then it's Changes.
For me personally, because I'm a dad, it's ghost stories.
Sure. Okay.
Because there's moments in there where you're like, man, like there's just moments in that book that hit you right in the feels, and you're like dealing like you kind of know how his thought process is, like seeing the things he's seeing and like doing things, and like when his dog sees him and shit, you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, brother, they're books I want to reread. I haven't reread any of them yet, but I feel like I'll eventually get to rereading them. But there's like 16 of them, so
There's
like
there's there's a lot, and there's going to be a lot more. So
that's the thing is, I wonder, has he ever said like how
yeah,
many?
it's 20. Okay, the number has changed. So the story is that he misunderstood his college writing assignment, and he wrote Dresden File 1 for that, and his professor was like, I think you can get this published, but like you need to come up with an outline. You need to like do these other pieces. And he thought that she meant outline the whole series. So he came back to class with like I think it's 21 books outlined, and she was like, no, no, just we need like an outline of the first book. And he was like, oops. And every Dresden File except for 12 months has been on that outline. Like it's been adapted and changed, but it's still following his
Yeah.
trajectory. So he added one for 12 months. But then he said after that was going to be like, yeah, there's a set number. Like it's an apocalyptic trilogy. It's a set number than an apocalyptic trilogy. Like he knows all of the ones that are supposed to go.
And there's still so many unanswered questions that are driving me crazy.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I think the last few are going to be they're going to be hectic.
They're special, man.
Yeah.
They're firmly in my top five.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Firmly.
100%. He's
What
the story is that when I was 14, my librarians knew me by name, and one of them reserved Codex Alera's first book, Furies of Calderon, for me, and literally was like handed it to me. She was like, "This is written by an author who's really popular. This series is more like what I think you like to read," because I was very high fantasy at the time. She's like, "You should read it. I've heard good things." And I was like, "What set me off on my Roman Empire like obsession in fantasy was right there, 14." So like I don't know, 20 years ago.
So what would be your like top three? We can you can I'll give it to you this way. I have like a couple more questions and we
Sure.
could call it because we've been going for an hour now. So what would be like your top three either books or authors for you personally? You could pick the three, either books or authors.
I feel like books would be impossible.
It's harder, yeah.
Um, what if I did series? We'll do series.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like particular, yeah, because
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
usually do
yeah.
series.
Let's see. In my top three would absolutely be Dresden. Um, I feel like I have to put the Wheel of Time in there. That's like absolutely foundational for me. Um, and then the third one's hard because I feel like it changes. Right now, it might be Sun Eater.
I
Um,
need to finish it. I'm on book
dude,
five.
it ends well. I mean, I think the best one of them all is Demon in White. Like Demon in White is just a phenomenal book. But they're all really 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 good. I think honorable mentions also go to Peter McLean's Priest of Bones. Um, what
It's a
else do we
really good.
have in there?
That's a good name for a series, Priest of
Dude,
Bone.
Priest of Bones is sick. It's basically, you know, the TV show Peaky Blinders. It's
Yeah.
basically Peaky Blinders fantasy.
Gonna thank you for adding a book to my list today.
Dude, it's sick. You're welcome. It's so sick. Um, that's something. I mean, I of course I love Red Rising. I really like the Rage of Dragons. I really like. I'm now listing a million books. Codex Alera is up there too. Name of the Wind. It goes, it goes, and it goes, and it goes.
I have actively been pushing off Wheel of Time because it's so massive that I feel like it's going to take over like an entire year.
Dude, but man, some of them is like some of the best epic fantasy ever written. Like just
So for me, my favorite series of all time is Faithful and the Fallen
sure, yeah.
by John Gwynne. It's like my number one. I don't know. I can't even tell you exactly what it is specifically that like, but it just works for me so perfectly.
It's the vibes, dude.
Yeah,
John Gwynn is good vibes, period.
For me, I always tell people when I do like my top tens or whatever, for the whatever's in that moment, like if I'm thinking about books, like what pops in my head first is that's usually how I try to nail it down. And then Dresden Files would be in my top three. I think I had it at 3 or 2. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but Empire of the Vampire also was really high up there. So this will be the last one, and I'll let you go. I'll take.
All right.
How do you know how to like when to finish a book? Like, how do you know exactly when that book is done?
It is a feeling, really. I mean, it depends, right? The urban fantasy is different because it is episodic, right? So there's a pretty clear signal usually, which is like we've solved this book's problem and left some sort of tangent for the next, like the thread connecting it. Those are easier. For Ironbound, the story I'll tell you is that like Cold Wind, I did not know. This is before it was edited, obviously, right? It got changed a lot, but like when I wrote the last chapter of Cold Wind, when I sat down to write it, I did not know it was the last chapter of Cold Wind. And then I got to the end of it, and I was like, oh, I think that's the end of the book. And I was home for Christmas. I remember this super vividly because, you know, my outline or my like sort of idea of what the book was, I was only at about halfway, but I was like, man, I really don't know how I'm going to fit this in the amount of space I have left in a book. And I wrote that chapter, and I was like, oh, I think it's because it needs its own book. And I finished writing. I walked out of the little office I was borrowing from my parents to use to write, and my mom was cooking or something, and she was like, "You okay? You have a weird expression on your face." And I was like, "I think I just finished a book." And she was like, "Isn't that a good thing?" And I was like, "I don't know." You know. And then I had to sit with it for a while, and I ended up going back through and sort of expanding Cold Wind to like be more, you know, with the understanding of like, okay, if this is where it ends in this book, how do we make that a full story? So like, you know, obviously it got edited, it got changed. But like when I hit that moment, it was like, oh, I read the scene and I was like, that's the ending of a book. That's what it is. And so that sometimes they sneak up on you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I always love that question. I've asked it a couple times now because everyone usually kind of has their own different answers for it. And that's why I like to know it because it helps me kind of like view how each author looks at his or her book, you know, because everyone does it their own ways, kind of differently. Have their own
and books sneak up on you, like they're each different too. So like Bloody Sands ended up being like a little bit of the opposite, which was I knew the ending because it was what I originally thought Cold Wind's ending was going to be, right? Which meant that I didn't know the beginning, and so that was like a weird working backwards to like, okay, I usually start with like a cool, you know, what I think is a cool premise. Like, this is what's interesting to me. This is where we're going to go, and we're going to see where we land. And so trying to be like, now, how do I land over there from over here? That was like a very new way of thinking about it, which was different. Had to mess with it in different ways.
Well, we can end there. I felt like I've taken your time for an hour now.
This is great. I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
I have thoroughly enjoyed your book so far. Like,
thank you so much, man.
I have been telling so many people, especially about Soul Fraught, like, because, like I said, it's so, and I think it's just, like you said, there's not a whole lot of urban fantasy coming out right now, and I really personally enjoy it, and I feel like it's so relatable to so many people. Like, if they would read it, they would be like, oh, like, I got my wife to read, like, my wife really reads most, like, romance books. Yeah. I even got her to read Dresden. Like, I could not get her to read Empire of the Vampire to save my fucking life. I tried, and she's like, I just can't get into it. But some way, somehow, she read like the Dresden Files and was like, well, she read Stormfront, and she was like enjoying it and liking it, and she was asking me like, hey, do you want to buy a pizza to get fairies and shit? Like so many like cool little things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that I'm like, I feel like it's so reachable for so many people.
Yeah,
That I
because
don't know
it
why it's
brings
not
like the
selling.
magical into the mundane, right? So
Yeah,
it's
well, because there's like you said, you can relate to like that's what like well even your books like there's shit that I know of, right, that like is in your world, and you're like, well, yeah, that's because it's based on this, like in your book, and you're like, that makes total fucking sense. Like
yeah, 100%.
because you're like, oh, it's a hidden world, but it's always bleeding into the everywhere else. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, dude. No, thank you.
This has
Listen,
been really fun.
like I said, you guys talking and spreading the word about the books is what's made like a tremendous difference in them. To where like I might be able to start writing full time in the next year or so. So I really appreciate it. I'm always down, dude. You guys have done a lot for me. I really appreciate it.
Do you how's the I got one more for you, I guess I lied. Do you like do you still really do streaming and stuff like that, or is it not
Oh
near
yeah.
as much?
Well, it's mostly like YouTube videos, but I post a YouTube video every day, and then I go and write books. So it's I wear many hats over here.
I I'm always like nervous to do like long form content when it comes to books. Like I feel like it's so much harder to do. And I said this earlier, like cuz like with was talking like with Andy and them guys, like I was on someone's live earlier and they were like struggling to do something. I am so bad with technology. How I have had any success doing this guy like on this app is I don't know how the fuck it happened.
I think it's just authentic. Like the funny thing is, I don't even know that long form content is really what people want about books. But I was talking to the Two to Ramble guys, and I said that people either want to talk about books for a minute or an hour, and there's like no in between, right? And it's a really really interesting. They either just want like, ooh, I'm looking for a book, and you can like kind of sell me on this one. All right, I'll give it a shot. Or they're like, this is the thing I'm obsessed with now. I need you to break down all the things we can fan theory about. Like those are the two
Yeah.
ways people want to talk about books. So it's a really interesting, tricky way to figure out how to talk about them in ways that people enjoy.
Yeah, for me, that's why I like doing the interviews because I feel like I can have like a legitimate conversation and just talk to someone about
Yeah,
books, and people can come and go and kind of do whatever they're going to do. And then this is like my long form content of like
yeah,
just
oh,
speaking about
100%.
books, and it works for me. So I enjoy doing them.
I saw somebody asked who the cover artist was. Is that for the Debt Collection or for Ironbound?
Yeah, I usually ask that, and I've just been kind of like all over the place today. But like, how has that worked for you? Like finding your own artists and stuff.
Well, so the cover artist for the Debt Collection is Chris McGrath, who does the Dresden Files covers. And so what happened was Bryce O'Connor, who runs Wraithmart, was helping me find a cover artist. And he said, well, you really need to look more like traditional urban fantasy. Send me some examples of some urban fantasy you really like, and I'll help you find somebody who can do it. I know all the artists. And I said, oh, okay, sure thing. And so I sent him Dresden. I sent him James Butcher, Jim's son's cover. I sent him Eric Carter by Stephen Blackmore and somebody else. I can't even remember who. And Bryce emailed me back and was like, so these are all the same guy, dude. And he's the guy who does this. And I was like, oh. And he was like, he does freelance every once in a while. Shoot him an email. And so I emailed Chris and was like, hey, man, I'm writing urban fantasy. And turns out you do the covers I love. Is there any chance you'd be willing to work together? And he said yes. And then we've been working together ever since. But it's like a fever dream, dude, because I'll have a call with him and he'll be like, well, okay, let me see when I can do this. I'm doing the Dresden Files right now, and then I'm doing the Dune special editions, and then I have to do something for Halo. But I think I could do you between Dune, and I'm like, brother, one of these things, not like the other. It's tricky. For Ironbound 1 and 2 were by a guy named Matt Sellers. However, he's not returning for 3, and that's a great question because I need to find out who did 3. Athon handles that directly, so I'm not as involved with that one. But for 1 and 2, is a guy named Matt Sellers.
And someone
Yeah.
asked if your books are going to be for sale in the Netherlands.
I assume. I mean, they're available through like Amazon EU at the very least. It's up to individual bookstores. I believe we have distribution into European bookstores now, but it's up to them if they want to carry it. They can usually probably order it. But Amazon EU for sure, because Amazon actually prints the books. So if you're trying to get physical copies, they can do it probably the cheapest for international, as far as I know. Hi,
But
Dennis.
Roman, I will. I've been telling you, I'm gonna let you go for like 20 minutes now. But I really
I never
enjoyed it.
shut up. It's my, it's the problem. So
Well, yeah, it's there's so many questions, like they're just never ending, like in my mind, and I'm really enjoying your books. And for me, like I said, this is such a difference for me because usually I'm talking to someone like either after I've read their books or I've already read their books. And for me, I'm currently reading one of your books, so that makes it like so much
we're
harder.
just in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like balls deep in your book right now. Like I can't get like it's been a problem for me, but I really appreciate it. You always taking the time to talk to me about your
Yeah, dude.
books.
Anytime. Hit me
And
up
I'll
anytime. I'm always down.
once I'm done with this series, I'll probably hit you up again. Once I'm done
Perfect.
with the
We'll
debt
do that.
collection, we'll do another
And
one.
then Bloody Sands comes out in November, so
We'll be here again.
we'll be here again.
Maybe I'll just wait for November because then I'll be fully through with all your books and I won't be like fangirling out about like everything that's happening because it's been a problem for me. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks everybody for sticking
Anytime,
around.
dude.
This has been
Yeah.
great. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thanks for everybody for coming out, and we'll chat soon. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I'll be DMing you tomorrow about like something crazy that's happened.